We are now joined by Baylor's defensive coordinator, Matthew Powledge. He was at Oregon for a year, with Baylor for a couple of years under Dave Aranda, part of that fantastic run with the Sugar Bowl team at 12-2. Joins us with Craig Paul, and I'm David Smoke. Coach, thanks for your time. I know it's probably been a quick turnaround to kind of get settled in. What was the first thing that Dave Aranda said to you when he was started talking to you about becoming the defensive coordinator?
Oh, man. Yeah, probably one of the first things was it would be awesome to have you back, and I don't know. I was blown away just by the phone call and the opportunity. I probably was in shock for a little while, just about the whole conversation. To be honest, just extremely humbled and grateful that I was even considered for the position.
Oh, be honest, you just missed us all here in the 254 too much, Coach.
Yeah, I missed all three of you guys for sure. I missed Waco. I missed Big O's. I missed I-35, the Alico Bills. I missed all of it.
You did not miss I-35. Nobody.
You had us until then.
You did not. Yeah, you were fine until then. Matthew Powledge joining us today on 365 Sports. You are from this area. You were at Huntsville, Sam Houston State. Karina, your wife, you just had a baby very recently. How important was the family part of this, a big part of also wanting to come back?
Yeah, I think it was a huge part of it. I don't mean to discredit just the Baylor piece at all, but I would say it was the cherry on top, or it was the icing on the cake. I think family is extremely important to us. Both of our families we're extremely close, and the opportunity to be 2 hours away from grandma and grandpa and all of that with the baby was just really exciting to us, especially my wife, and that was big for sure. But I think more importantly, just what Baylor's about, what Mack Rhoades is about, what Dave Aranda's about, and I think just how special of a place that Baylor is, and our first experience here was extraordinary. I think that was probably the lead off. That was the thing that really drove everything.
You inherit a defensive roster here that is in a very interesting kind of state of transition from it was kind of two factions. There was a lot of like 4th, 5th, 6th-year guys on this defense, and then a lot of guys who are in their first or second year, and not really anybody in between. And, the veterans are leaving. You've obviously got transfer portal things that happen at every school. When you look at what you have coming back, and I know that you know most of these guys, what do you see that you're going to have to build the most with the youth movement that's coming on this defense?
Yeah, well, I think in the secondary, there's definitely been a youth movement, especially this past year. I think we'll definitely have to continue to build depth in that area. I think the linebacker room's another area where you're really strong in there from a youth standpoint. You're really strong from an ability standpoint. I think what you lack in there a little bit is maybe some of the experience that you would like to have. But some of those guys played meaningful snaps this year, which is great. I think that it's a really talented roster, but it's a roster that's going to need an off season. It's going to need Vic Valoria really getting after them in January, February. It's gonna really need the reps of the spring football, I think I'm really excited about leading that side of the ball. But when I look at the roster, I even get more excited.
Where do you start, Coach? Like, what's obviously this whole getting the job process, and then I'm sure the logistics of when am I moving, the family, and all of that. But football wise, what's kind of the start of your journey back in Waco?
Well, we're gonna have a recruiting weekend this weekend, so that'll be huge for us, right? So I got back to Waco yesterday, and first thing, I've been in Oregon recruiting on the phone, talking to kids about Baylor and what we're gonna do in 2023. So that was the first part of it, and Second part was I drove in yesterday, and Christian Robinson had beat me here by about 12 hours, and they were actually flying back home. They spent a day with Coach Aranda, and they were looking at houses yesterday. So the first thing I did as I drove off 35, exited off and went and met them while they were looking at a house, a home, just to connect with them and, let them know how excited I am about him and his wife, Kaylee, being here. And so I think, we went to lunch today with a couple of our players. I think, I think that's it really, is just reconnecting with people, continuing to build those relationships. It's going to be important this weekend that we do a great job with, some of the families that are going to be here and letting them know what our vision is and what Baylor is really about. So I think that's where you kind of get started, is making sure you sure up all those things and you build a great foundation that's built on connections, it's built on relationships, it's built on people. And that's where we are right now.
Coach, what is more important, the still remaining whatever you can do from the high school level, or actually the transfer portal with what you need to fill on wherever that is on defense?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I truly believe that I still think it starts at the high school level. I still think you want to build your roster that way, recruiting high school kids, getting them in here at an age where they're very what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe influential, but being able to pour into them and build it from that direction. But I think back to, 5 years ago, there was a supplement. It was called junior colleges. And, every year you took, maybe depending on your roster and depending on, what your program's philosophy was, but you took anywhere between 3 and 10 guys, from that level every year. And maybe a couple of those were transfer guys. There just wasn't a thing called the portal. So I think really the portal's almost become like that supplement now. It's, hey, we're going to build it high school wise. And then, hey, we kind of have some holes to fill here, and we're going to use the transfer portal in that form or fashion. But it kind of makes sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's to me where it's at right now. I still think high school's where it's at, though.
You were only gone for a year, but when we talked to Bradley Dale Pivoto the other day, I mean,
my God,
saying your praises, and I also said that we need to get him and Phil Bennett together to do a podcast when Coach Pivoto retires too. That would be unbelievable. But you only gone a year, but you're kind of a sponge when it comes to football knowledge and different perspectives. Even though it was a short time, do you feel like you learned a whole lot in that time with Dan Lanning and the folks in Oregon?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Me and Dan have been connected. We've been, really good friends since our time at Sam Houston in 2014. We were together there. And in the off seasons, every summer we used to call it the pass rush clinic. And he was coaching outside linebackers one year, and so was I. And so initially that's kind of how it got started. And we would do that every year. We would meet up during the off season and spend 3 or 4 days talking football together. We'd usually figure out a way to play a round of golf during those 3 or 4 days, and we would share ideas and things like that. And then we would go back, our separate ways. And so anyways, this past year, our defenses aren't very different. They're very similar. We believe in the same thing. Coach Aranda, myself, Coach Lanning, it's a lot of similarities if you watch the style of defense, the scheme, the X's and O's, and then just the fundamentals as well of both defenses are pretty close to the same.
Coach, what was Coach Aranda's sort of message when he reached out to you about the job and about the potential there? I mean, what was kind of from your vantage point, what he was what was he looking for? What was kind of the idea behind, approaching you and you being the guy that could fit what he was wanting to do?
I think a couple of things that maybe that were said were maybe just energy, relationship, connection. Those seem to be maybe the main topics that continue to come up. And those are all things that I really believe in. And I think, I think when you enjoy doing something, when you really, I'll be honest, I haven't seen many championship teams do it without passion, without enthusiasm. I think when you have that, you can do just about anything, and you can be great at it. And so I told the recruit this the other day, and it was ironic. I was kind of like figuring out myself while I was telling him this. He was asking about. I had talked so much about asking him questions about himself for 15 minutes and just listening to him, and he kind of flipped it on me. He's like, "Coach, what about you? What do you like doing? What are your hobbies?" And really, outside of Karina, baby Zoe, my family, and football, I couldn't really think of many other things. I don't fish very much. I don't hunt very much. So I started thinking, that's it really. It's just football, family, and so I'm really passionate about those things. And I think when you incorporate that, you have a lot of enthusiasm about it, and you really love what you're doing. I think you can accomplish something great. So I don't know. I believe in the things that Coach was talking about.
I spoke with Jalen Petrie last week with the Texans, and of course, you know all about him. He's had an incredible rookie year, but he was unbelievable with you at Baylor, along with everyone else as well. When I asked him about the reaction to you being hired, it was that morning. I'm excited for him. He was my position coach. Everyone knows that at safety, he's the best of the best. He has the it factor. When you hear a former player say that about you, or coaches that mentored you say that about you, what does that mean?
To be honest, listening to you say that, I got goosebumps. Means the world to me. Jalen means the world to me. Many of the other players that I coach here at Baylor, mean the same. A lot of those guys are still here. I'm extremely grateful and really humbled and blessed and fortunate to have the chance to coach those guys. And I really appreciate him saying that. It means a lot.
Matthew Powledge, defensive coordinator at Baylor, with us on 365 Sports.
You obviously came in the middle of Jalen's career, but he was a guy who kind of did it. He might have been one of the last old school guys, right? The last way it used to be, where he committed to a school because he liked it here. He was the only recruit in the class and grew it up. Will you tell tales of players like that to kind of modern recruits to kind of show, look, things will work out for you if you pick the best path for yourself?
Yeah, I think so, 100%. I think in this day and age, everybody wants, and this isn't just football, but this is probably in a lot of aspects of life and even in the business world, they want instant results. They really want to, see, they go from the high school level and they're, all state, they're all district, they're the MVP on their team, and they get to the college level and it's like, hey, there's more work to be done. And, there's a redshirt year involved, or, there's, I'm a special teams player this year and I'm asked to be the, rotational, whatever, receiver or linebacker. And, they sometimes struggle, dipping back down to, their freshman, sophomore year of high school, basically, you know what I mean? Where they were and having to make that climb or that jump again. And so they get antsy and sometimes distracted. Sometimes there's outside noise involved. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, maybe that grass is greener over there. And that's not always the case. I think it still takes what it takes. I still think there's a lot of hard work involved. There's an analogy about like bamboo, right? And, so bamboo, I think sometimes if you plant bamboo, it takes like 5 years, for it to break the ground or something like that, something extraordinary like that. But then once it breaks the ground, it grows at a rate of like 2 inches a day. And sometimes that's kids when they get to the college level, right? They're, you're pouring, onto that plant, and it's growing, and they don't see it. They hadn't broken the ground yet. They don't know it. But then maybe when they're Jalen Petrie and they get to their third year and they actually break the ground, like all of a sudden this thing's about to shoot up and it's about to be something pretty special. So I think that's what it is. And some kids struggle with that concept, and some of them are like Jalen, and they're just going to keep on pounding that rock, and they're going to find a way to break it.
Matthew, you have been to a lot of places, part of an early career, a lot of stops, and you've been, as I mentioned, a lot of mentors, including Mark Stoops, Napier. We mentioned, obviously, Pivotal, Dave Aranda. This is something where you've made this climb pretty quickly from Baylor to Oregon, back to Baylor. Is this now kind of, not that you don't have a future as a head coach somewhere, but this is kind of a chance for you to take over and do your own thing here for a little bit?
Yes, sir. There was a part of me, that I had, great friends on that Oregon staff. So did Karina, my wife. And it was, we had a really fun season. It was, a successful season to some extent, and we were just starting to build it, and so that pulled on me a little bit. But at the same time, you work 12, 13 years, for these type of opportunities, and to finally reach a position to where you can potentially accept one of these opportunities like this. And then for it to be at a place like Baylor, with Coach Aranda, Mack Rhoades, like I said, it was that made it a no-brainer. But yeah, extremely excited about it.
Coach, last time you were here, you were safeties and special teams coach. Now you're coming back as defensive coordinator. Any idea on kind of how those other responsibilities will be divvied up? I'd imagine that'd be a lot on your plate to do everything you were doing and also be defensive coordinator.
Yes, sir. Well, if Coach asked me to do it, I would make it happen. I'd find a way. But I'm not 100% sure on some of those other details.
Okay.
I just know I'm gonna give it my all with the defense, and yeah, obviously the safety is a little bit more of my expertise, and hope that everybody's proud of what we put on the field this next fall.
Matthew Powledge, again, defensive coordinator at Baylor as well. What is your favorite, or when have you gotten used to some of the Dave Aranda analogies, books, philosophical part of it?
Yeah, there's so many good ones. I was thinking about analogies when you first said it, but I just think what we're built on here. It's funny. I was at Jasper's for lunch, and this gentleman walks up to me, and he goes, "Are you one of the coaches?" And the older gentleman, I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "I just want to tell you how much," and he doesn't know, that I wasn't here this past year. But he says, "I just want to tell you how proud I am to be a Baylor Bear fan. And I want to tell you that y'all handle y'all's business the right way. I love watching y'all on TV and how the young men interact and how they go to work every day." And to me, that said a lot, because I know that's when we got here in 2020, that was Coach's vision, to be built on, the fact that we're going to win with character, and better people make better players. And we're going to invest in these young men more so than just on the football field. And for somebody just randomly, it was almost like this was staged, to come up to me my first day back and say that. It was like, okay, like this is where I'm supposed to be, because those are the things I believe in. I forgot the question, to be honest, David.
No, that's okay. About some of the Dave Aranda analogies.
Yeah. One of my favorites, okay, is talking about simulated pressures. All right. This is back in 2020. We got here, and we had a 3-4 clinic right before COVID hit. So the 3-4 clinic is kind of a thing that's been around Coach Aranda, I think maybe since the Wisconsin days. And, everybody's like lucky to get a invite to this 3-4 clinic. I mean, you can talk to any of the defensive minds in college football, and it's like, hey, have you ever been to the 3-4 clinic? It's like one of those kind of deals. And so, long story short, we're having it here in Waco, and we have some staff here on campus, and Coach Aranda starts doing his presentation on simulated pressures. And so he's talking about how he's trying to get across to everybody why he likes simulated pressure. And he says, I moved out here to Texas, and I start buying fajitas. And when I was not in Texas, you would go to a place and you would get maybe chicken fajitas, and you would pay $20-$25 for a plate of chicken fajitas. And here you can go to a place here in Waco and you can get beef, chicken, and shrimp for like $9.99, and that's simulated pressures, man. You get more. You get more for less. and so like when he landed that plane, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So, anyways, long story short, I'm in Oregon this year, and I have a young coach say to me, he said, Coach Powell, he said, why do you like simulated pressure so much? And I said, man, this is the perfect opportunity to use Coach Aranda fajita story. So, anyways, the young man really loved it. He enjoyed that.
That's a great story. We'll have to ask him about that fajita story at some point. I know you need to move on as well, but 2-7, then 12-2. Last year, obviously, expectations sky high, did not end well. Can you try to explain the fire sometimes when you see Dave Aranda, his personality, the way he is outwardly, but he has a fire inside of him, and sometimes people don't understand that. Can you try to explain how much he wants to get this thing back on track this year?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I talked about the passion and enthusiasm earlier. Right. And, I'm probably more of a personality to where if you come to practice or you sit in on a meeting, you can probably, see it externally, probably a lot clearer, a lot more. And I just think that people are built different ways. Right. And so that, that passion, that enthusiasm, 100% lives in Coach. He might be as passionate or more enthusiastic than anybody in the building, except it's more internal, and he does it with a straight face a lot of times. But he's got one of the biggest hearts that I've ever been around, and I truly mean that. I really believe in him 100%. There's a lot of trust there between us, and there's no question about it. There's no one that's going to work harder than him to make sure that Baylor football continues to trend in the right direction.
Christian Robinson going to be a part of that energy too?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a big fan of Christian, more so from afar. We've never obviously coached together. We didn't have a prior relationship really, but we have similar connections, similar people we know. I've coached with a couple of the same guys, and I've always heard great things about him, how he was a young up-and-comer. And then when you watch his position groups play, you see what everybody's talking about. And I couldn't be more excited to have him on staff, because I also know that he's an outstanding person, and he fits us, but he's going to bring something to the table that's really going to make us a lot better. And it's really his position room is going to love him 100%.
A lot of people texted me, hey, don't forget there's a lot of Bearcat fans in Waco, Texas as well as Sam Houston State fans. And
yes, sir.
What a run.
Eat them up.
Yeah, what Casey Keeler's done, they're about to go FBS. And so that was brought up as well. Hey, Matthew, thank you so much. Welcome back to Waco, Texas, and thanks for spending time with us today when you have a lot of things on your mind and doing what you're doing right now.
Hey, thank y'all so much, David, Craig, Paul. I appreciate y'all a bunch. And anytime, I thank y'all.
Yes, sir. Matthew Powledge, new defensive coordinator at Baylor. I want to bring something up because